Can't the religions be human inventions?
Can you prove that Islam is the true religion? Can you give an example of a miracle in the Qur'an?
Many religions have been made by humans, absolutely. Literally 100 years after the revelation of the Qur'an, the Muslims were ruling land from China to Spain. How does that happen? We lost the way and we became just like other people.
Brother Adnan Rashid, welcome to our cross-questioning concept. In this concept, we are going to ask some tough questions that are asked by the atheists. When you're ready, we can start.
I'm ready.
Can't the religions be human inventions?
Yes, they have been. Many religions have been made by humans, absolutely. The question is, do these religions lead to success? Man is limited by experience, knowledge, and foresight, because we have very limited lifespan. But the one who is completely unlimited is the Creator. The Creator has no beginning, He has no end. So because He's beyond time and space, He has unlimited amount of knowledge, unlimited amount of experience. So that's why we need to listen to Him. So man, when they make religions, when they make ideologies, they lead to catastrophes. You have seen all these man-made religions we have around us. Call it idol worship, call it paganism, call it polytheism, call it communism, socialism, fascism, whatever isms and schisms people are following today, they are leading to no good results. And Islam is an exception. We believe Islam is true. It came from God. It is a divine faith. It is a divinely revealed faith through the Qur'an. When we apply it carefully, we see good results. Like, look at the history of the Islamic civilization. For over 1,000 years, Muslims led all the major fields in the world when it comes to technology, knowledge, education, libraries, civilization, advancement, philosophy, for example. Muslims led the world in these fields when we took our faith seriously. But when we abandoned it for other systems, other ideologies, other influences, we lost the way and we became just like other people. And that's why we are facing what we are facing today in the world.
Can you prove that Islam is the true religion?
The Qur'an has information in it that could not have been known by an Arabian shepherd in the 7th century. The Qur'an has very, very sophisticated ideas, very complicated historic facts, which could not have been known by a man who was unlettered, who never went to a school, never went to a university, didn't know Greek, didn't know Aramaic, didn't know any other language other than the Arabic language. How would he put all these ideas in the Qur'an? Correct history, correct philosophy, correct instructions, correct facts, okay, correct predictions for the future, things that became true. For example, in chapter 24 of the Qur'an, verse 55, the Qur'an makes a prediction that this world will be taken by the believers. If you believe and do righteous deeds, you will take the planet. وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَيَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَمَا اسْتَخْلَفَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. It is a promise of Allah to those who believe among you and do righteous deeds, that you will have succession in the land. So that means this is a prophecy. And amazingly, literally 100 years after the revelation of the Qur'an, the Muslims were ruling land from China to Spain. How does that happen? So this is why I believe Islam is true, because the prophecies are true, the information in the Qur'an is true, the history is true, there are no factual errors, there are no scientific errors, so to say. Okay, there is nothing in the Qur'an that is incorrect. So the Qur'an is the source of Islam. That's why Islam is true.
Can you give another example of a miracle in the Quran?
Absolutely, there are so many examples. I simply do not have time to go through all of them, but there are factual statements made in the Quran. For example, the story of Joseph is very, very powerful. We know, historically speaking, that when Joseph was living in Egypt, this was the old kingdom, when Hyksos people were ruling Egypt. And the title for the king at the time was not Pharaoh. And the Quran does not call the king of Joseph Pharaoh. He simply calls, or the Quran simply calls the king of Joseph the king, Malik. His title is Malik. When we come to the time of Moses in the new kingdom, right, the title suddenly changed to Pharaoh. So the king of Moses is called the Pharaoh, and the king of Joseph who lived before Moses, about 400 to 500 years before Moses, his king is called Malik. So for the Sahaba, for the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this was not a big deal. Who cares? Pharaoh, king, the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. Today we know from hieroglyphics or hieroglyphs that the king at the time of Joseph in the Old Kingdom was not called Pharaoh, because they were not pharaohs. They were Hyksos. That was another family. That was another people. Okay? And the king at the time of Moses during the New Kingdom was called Pharaoh, because the title Pharaoh was used as a direct reference to the ruler of Egypt at the time. So this is a distinction found in the Qur'an that cannot be found even in the Bible.
Couldn't that be known back then?
Back at the time of the Prophet? Absolutely not. Because hieroglyphs were a dead language. And the Prophet ﷺ had no ability to read hieroglyphs, let alone hieroglyphs. He couldn't even read the Arabic language. We know the Prophet could not read any language. He was not learned. The Qur'an makes it very clear that he was ummi. Ummi means that he was unlettered. He did not go to a school. He did not go to an academy. He had no teacher teaching him how to read and write. The Qur'an makes it very clear that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did not know how to read or even write. So if that's the case, how could he even read the hieroglyphs in Egypt on the temples? So he could not have known this. This only came to light in the 19th century after the hieroglyphs were deciphered by European Egyptologists, not by Muslims. European Egyptologists deciphered hieroglyphs, and this is when we came to know this.
Thank you for answering our questions. We'll be returning back with tougher questions.
Okay, no problem. Bring those questions on and we will do the same, inshallah. We will try our best to answer them.